Good evening, everybody. Hey, there we go. I've seen a lot of liquor being drunk, so I know you'll have some energy built up right now. For those of you who haven't had the pleasure of meeting yet, my name is Param Eftekhari. I'm the founder and chairman of the Institute for Critical Infrastructure Technology, and on behalf of the team, it is my honor and privilege to welcome you to the 2023 ICIT Gala and Benefit. Show of hands, who has been here before to the Gala? Yeah, so I was telling folks that there's such a following to this event because people come and they're like, this is my favorite event of the year. I say it's my favorite event of the year, but obviously I'm biased. And I like to see that this is proof positive that it is one of the best events of the year. But seriously, we know how busy you are. We know that some of you have come from different events tonight just to make it here tonight. And we know that regardless, this is a room of executives who have demands on their time. And outside of work, we like to have personal lives. And so it means a lot to us that you join us this evening to support the work that we do, foster tighter relationships, and of course, celebrate some of our industry's best and brightest. So this year's gala is extra special. They're all amazing. But there's two things happening this year that I'm particularly excited about. The first is that in January of this coming year, January 24, is our 9th year anniversary, meaning the next gala is our 10-year gala. It's going to be here, but it's going to be out of control. So you guys better get your tickets. Saying it right now. You don't want to miss it. And the second thing, which is even more exciting, is that tonight is the night that we are officially introducing ICIT's new CEO, Corey Simpson, who is going to help us lead into the next decade and really take us to heights that, candidly, I never imagined or thought were possible for our humble little organization. We'll be hearing from Corey in a few moments so he can talk about his vision and share a bit about what his views are for the Institute. But before we do that, I just wanted to take a minute to just walk down memory lane and reflect a little bit. Not just because I'm nostalgic, I am, but because there's a lesson here that I want to share with all of you. So this is the ICIT origin story. If you're a Marvel person, I'm excited to have an origin story. So I began in late 2013 thinking about what I want to do next, right? I was in government, I was doing events, and somehow over the course of a year, we came up with the idea for ICIT. I'm going to let you in a little secret. I had no business in the world starting a think tank. I actually didn't know a thing about policy. I may or may not even be really interested in policy, if I'm being really honest. I had very little, if any, relationships on the Hill. I'd never been to a briefing on the Hill. I had very, very, very little relationships in the national security side, in the intelligence community, somewhat in the DoD, but primarily civilian agencies. And my research was mediocre, to be honest. And critical infrastructure at the time, right? DHS had just been set up. CISA wasn't even a thing yet. It was NPPD back then. And so we thought long and hard about what to name it. And when we called ourselves ICIT, the Institute for Critical Infrastructure Technology, we did it with the long game in mind. And I'll tell you, those first couple of years, the very first event we did, we called it the Critical Infrastructure Forum. And everyone was like, well, we don't do critical infrastructure. We're in healthcare. We're in government. And I was like, oh, we're here still. Okay. So we had to change it, right? That was 10 years ago. But here's what I did know back then when we started ICIT, right? I know that I loved this community. I was fortunate. How many GTRAers are out there in this room? Yeah. These are the OGs. So my previous organization that I had was another nonprofit that was more of an event company, frankly, and I got to know the government community then, and I fell in love with it, and I fell in love with the people. And I know that I really like bringing people together, and although I don't know a lot about policy at the time and didn't know about all these things I mentioned, what I did know was that there was a need for some organization to create forums for objective, nonpartisan education and bringing policymakers, critical infrastructure leaders, technology partners, and federal agency folks together to start to build those relationships and share information and move ahead to the goals that we have. And so we launched ICIT in December of 2014. I don't know if anyone here was at our first event. the content was good, but the event was a disaster. So this was bootstrapped, right? This was like my savings. And so I had $800 at the time to spend on this, which is maybe, I don't know, $1,200 in today's money. It was at the Shriners Club of DC, if anyone's been there. Anyone been there? It is, no disrespect to the Shriners people. I'm short. This room, I almost hit my head on the ceiling. Like, it was that bad. The only money that I had for food and beverage, it was one thing of coffee that did not refill because I didn't have the money. And what goes better with coffee than chips and salsa? And that was the event, right? And that was our first event. But you know, I'm spared the details, but then we got to work, right? And over the last 9 years, we incrementally increased our fundraising. We did a better job with our publications. We hired people infinitely smarter than me to help with our content. Our events got better. Our roundtables got more meaningful with better dialogue and meaningful dialogue that actually is now being used in Capitol Hill and research that's being cited in academic institutions. My researcher that I hired said, "Oh, I learned about ICIT because we study you in our class." Oh my gosh, that's amazing. And on, right? And so if you're an entrepreneur, you know this, right? There's highs and there's lows. The highs are really high. I'll never forget the first time that I got, Rob Joyce called and said, "We'd like you to come to the White House." Oh my God, I'll never forget that. Going to the Pentagon for the first time. So many firsts that I never thought I would do, particularly as an immigrant. Born in Iran, grew up in the suburbs of Milwaukee, go Wisconsin. And the lows, however, were really, really low. I mean, there were, some of them are personal lows. Some of them, frankly, there was a moment where I thought that I was, you don't file Chapter 11 as a nonprofit, but you dissolve it. And I was this close. I remember my mom and dad are back there. They'll get a shout out in a minute. I remember being on the couch. All right, shout it out now. Mom and dad. Yes, please stand up. No, you guys should stand up. You should stand up. Yes. All right, I was going to do it at the end, but they're amazing people. Please meet them. But I was on the couch, like in tears, and I was like, I got to change industries. What am I going to do? I'm going to be a chef now. It was bad. But you don't give up, and you push through it, and 9 years later, here we are today. And the reason I share all this is because of the lesson that I want to share. When I look back, right, I don't just think about the wins and losses. I don't think about those ups and downs. They come to mind, I laugh, I cringe, I shed a tear every now and then. But what I think about more than anything, whenever I look back on the last 9 years, is I think about all of you. I think about the community, right? That little crappy event that I mentioned, the speakers of that event was, at the time, the Inspector General of the House of Representatives, Terry Grafenstein, and Ron Ross, who we all know and love. The fundraising I said that we tried to do, Tedra, I will say this to the day I die, Tedra back then was it HP? They had worked with me previously, my other organization, and I went to them with a crazy idea, and I said, I want to do it, and they said, okay, we're going to support you. We're going to get behind you, and if it doesn't work, so be it. We'll go on to the next thing. The publications, right? Who is ICIT to ask a notable executive or expert to publish an essay to us? But people will come to us and say, well, look, we want to help you. We have a choice, but we're going to publish our essay through you to get your credibility up. And I can give you a million, examples like that. But, and I think most of you know, I'm a community builder, right? If you ask me what I do for a living, I build communities and I build businesses. That's kind of my job. And this community has been with me personally and with ICIT every step of the way. It's an amazing community. It's the community that validated this idea. I remember calling Ron and calling Terry and saying, I think I'm going to do a think tank. And I was like, I shouldn't do that, right? And they're like, you absolutely should do it. This is needed. We'll figure it out. I mean, this is the most important part of what we do. And I share this not just to say thank you, even though thank you all very much a million times over. I say this to remind everybody in this room that you never know how your actions are actually impacting somebody's life or impacting potentially some organization or some community or some cause, right? You don't know what's going on in people's lives. You don't know what they're working towards. You know what the challenges they're facing. We all come here, we all put on our tuxes and dresses and look fabulous, and we have no idea what's going on in each other's lives, right? The fact that the community has been there to support has what's made us get here today. And I guarantee you that in each of your lives, there's dozens of examples of other entrepreneurs, family members, struggling artists, colleagues, you name it, who are going through things. And you, as their community, because we're all in a million communities, are making a difference in their lives and are going to help them get to where they want to go. And I run one of the platforms that I'm responsible for is a CISO community of around 1,200 private sector CISOs, and so I go to a lot of these CISO things. And the thing that I hear the most from these communities is not, oh wow, that was just the most incredible discussion on zero trust, changed my life. That is not. No one's ever said that, and no one ever will say that. What they do say though is, Parham, this community helped me overcome my fear of speaking. Because you gave me a shot, not me, the community. This community helped me find a job when I didn't have one. This community and the networking I get and the coaching I got helped me get my promotion. I got published for the first time because of somebody I met here, right? They helped me with the personal issue. Again, I can give you a million examples, but we tend to so much focus on, particularly in DC when everything is inflated, we focus so much on the big stuff. This company just got this multi-billion-dollar DoD contract, or someone that got their $50 million Series B, or someone got valued as a unicorn, and these are all amazing accomplishments. But never forget that those are the headlines, and there's people that, frankly, job it is to represent those organizations and to be on stage, to be the face and to tell the message. And everyone, I guarantee you, everyone who's coming on stage tonight will say something to this effect. They are successful because they have teams of dozens and dozens and hundreds, and in the case of government, thousands and tens of thousands of people who are working together, encouraging each other, supporting each other as a community, and helping the organization get to where it wants to go. And so, my lesson that I'd like to share with you, and if you walk away remembering only one thing from my comments tonight, it's that you are part of a lot of communities, and you are making a difference. Terry Graffenstein in that same event said something I'll never forget. She said, leadership is pervasive, and it doesn't matter, I'm paraphrasing, of course, but it doesn't matter what your budget is, what your title is, how many employees you have. That might dictate the amount of people that you're able to influence, and so we should not discredit that. But everybody has a sphere of influence, and everybody is making a change, even if it's just you in the corner working on a project and just leading by example, right? That is making a difference. And so be generous with your time, be generous with your praise, be generous with your kindness, give people the benefit of the doubt, be supportive, help however you can, because you just never know. And I know that, again, ICIT is here because a lot of people did a lot of things like that. Some of them knew that they were doing it. Most of you had no clue that you were doing it, and that includes all of you who come back to this gala every year. So genuinely, thank you for that. We're obviously very, very grateful, and I hope you can go and pay it forward, and I'm sure you will. So now we're going to move on and hear from the newest leader of our community, Corey Simpson. But before we do, I have some housekeeping items that I've been asked to review. First of all, given that tomorrow is Veterans Day, I would like to ask all veterans and those who are currently serving in our nation's military to please stand so we can recognize you and thank you for your service. Thank you. This one I started doing last year, and it's a personal favorite. Do we have any educators in the room? Any teachers, any adjunct professors, any K through 12s? Anybody? Yes. Any more? Thank you guys. There you go. Thank you guys for what you do. You guys are the backbone. I hate when I see, I'm sorry, I'm not getting on my rant box, my soapbox. I don't like those Amazon, my school needs things, buy it for me. Like, we got to get those student teachers money, but that's another conversation. That's the next think tank, right? Give me a few years for that one. I also want to recognize and thank all of the ICIT fellows. Are there any ICIT fellows who are in the room? Please stand. For those of you who aren't familiar, ICIT fellows are the community that we go to for guidance on topics we focus on and for input on many of our research projects and publications and various events. Of course, tonight is an important fundraiser, and we couldn't do it without our sponsors and donors. So a very, very big thanks, first and foremost, to our co-chair for the evening, Google for Government. We really appreciate your partnership. We also want to thank our table hosts for the evening, Checkmarks, Fourscout, and Yahoo. Thank you guys for your partnership. And our bronze sponsors, thank you for your sponsorship. It's Synac, Devo, Wiz, Accenture Federal Services, ISACA Greater Washington, D.C. Chapter, Elastic, Venable LLP, Thomas Hagood and Associates, I hope I pronounced that correctly, I'm sorry, and Cyber Risk Alliance. Thank you all for your support. And they're never in the room when I do this, but give it up for the ICIT team who works really, really hard to make this all happen. Kathy, Edith, Perry, and Pervik. And of course, all of you. But we thanked you already, so we will do that one fast.